Share both camera. I see the red dot on the one.
Okay, you got a red dot up here.
Uh-huh.
There's no red light, but you got recording here and
Red light there. Okie dokie. Hey, Mike, can you bring Kiss from a Rose?
Kiss Mom.
Because I'm finally famous.
Same throwaway intro as one of the episodes of the last episode. Last season. We'll see what happens. I'm out of control right now.
I'm excited because we got more shots.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it's Benji here.
And Philip J. Fry.
Philip J. Fry.
Why I said it like that? What a terrible voice and a terrible intro.
I'm glad I could roll with it. Anyway, we are...
Two beans.
Two beans. And
You got one bean, you got two beans, you got two beans.
You get two beans in a pot and a bucket of milk. We just recorded one episode, second episode ever of season 2. We're feeling it today, so let's start with episode 3.
Yeah. The rare occasion where we've done 2 episodes in one night.
Not because of anything, but because we're super inefficient.
We've been at this for like 5 hours, and I've only gotten like an hour's worth of content. So we're
we didn't
really
even
trying to
record
get
it right. We
we didn't even get all the camera angles. It's probably just going to be one camera angle that last
We're
episode.
shooting for 2 on this one, but we're
Yeah.
having fun. We thought we'd give you guys another one tonight. You guys probably don't understand any of this because you're not part of our...
You're like 2 weeks in the future from the last time you saw us in the podcast form.
And really, from this episode, you're probably like months. At least a month or 2.
Yeah,
So
this is probably like in October right now.
So consider your fourth wall broken. Hello, Deadpool. We'll see you on the big screen.
See you at the Grammys.
See you at the Emmys, big Deadpool. Because we're a podcast.
Deadpool.
Yeah, what a Deadpool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess before we get into prompts, we probably better do our shot.
Oh yeah. That is a thing that we do. We've already had 3 or 4. If you watch these consecutively, you will see one entire night.
Look at the 2 different colors in our shot glasses.
But they're the same color.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the detail, but we're yep.
Yep. Hey, 1, 2, 3. Doesn't taste like ass, and that's what I'm happy about.
Yeah, it's like blueberry.
It is. It's berry lemon.
That's it.
I think we have a slight winner.
Yeah, I think out of all the ones we've taken,
That might be one of my favorites.
it's a little sour. Sometimes you go with that lemon.
Yeah,
But-
it even says sour on the bottle. It's like,
They warn you.
sour.
They warn you ahead of time. They're like, by the way, bud,
Yeah.
in case you're a little.
It does not say sour. Oh no, it does say it says sours. I didn't see the 0 or the O. I don't know why I said 0. But I was like, it just says sirs. There's
Sus.
It's
Sus ors.
But it does have sours.
Yeah.
There's a O.
So today we are talking about music.
Music, yes.
Yeah.
Which-
Kind of broad, kind of specific. We're going to be touching all angles.
Touching all them anuses. Angles.
Touching all those angles.
Angles. You know that through all of, if you've watched some of our episodes, maybe you've watched them all, maybe you watched 1 or 2. Maybe this is your first one. Well, guess what? If it's your first one, you're not going to know this. Anyway, we love music. We were both in metal bands.
Mm-hmm.
We played a show together where I was the vocalist of his metal band for like one show. But
We've been in bands together. We've been in each other's bands. We've been in concert band.
whoa.
You know. And go get caught up on
Yeah.
season 1 for some info.
Yeah, get a little bit of that. Get a little bit of that.
Today we're gonna be talking about like our some of our favorite artists, some of our favorite albums,
asking some real good, hard-hitting journalist questions about music.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Just getting real
just
Tom
journalists.
Brokaw.
No, we're not.
On all of us.
Just getting Katie Couric all over you. I like saying Katie Couric.
Mm-hmm.
She's hard-hitting news journalist. I love her. All right, questions. What do we got? For me, I would like to know, how do you get into a new album / artist? Have you ever had somebody go, man, I love this album, or I love this artist, I want you to love that too as much as I do, so I want you to put it at the top of your list of things to try, and I want you to try it now, and if you don't, I'm going to force you into it.
It's simultaneously a harder question and also an easier question to answer these days than it used to be. So it used to be I was kind of closed-minded. So if someone suggested, just immediately didn't register with what I liked as my own subjective taste, I'd be like, no, it's dumb, it's stupid. And so I kind of got closed off from a lot of good music for a while. These days, I find I'm a little too open and trying new things.
I don't know. You're saying little too? Like, are you saying that you're not filtering out enough stuff, or are you just like?
Yes, I think that has to do more with I'm still kind of in a journey of self-discovery in what music I really like.
Okay.
So it's like I'm in a process of trying to seek out new stuff to kind of be like my big thing. I went through kind of like a big transitional phase from the beginning of like my 20s to the end of my 20s. Like I'm completely different musically. Like there's still some core stuff from the time like around that, when I was like 18, 19, 20 that I still really like. But the branches have expanded so far.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find my own like North Star to get kind of back on track with that.
Okay.
So I am really open to stuff. I still kind of, stick within kind of like the metal genre and whatnot. But for me, it just needs to be, I guess this is going to sound really broad and generic, but original.
Okay.
And, that can be in, changing up, the production, or changing up like a take on something, it doesn't have to be like the new idea that no one's ever thought about before, but just like, hey, we all kind of know this formula and this thing, what if you like just turned it upside down, or you did something like that. I like stuff like that. I like it when artists kind of have a vision for an album. I think albums in general are kind of on the way out. Not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I think that's just where like our culture and our technology is kind of leading us. Like things are consumed so much more rapidly than they used to be. It makes more sense to go, single by single sometimes.
I have noticed the increase in singles lately.
So for me, I still definitely prefer an album for the most part, because I like digesting something and like, okay, this was the whole vision they put together.
Okay.
That's kind of my criteria, is I guess just original, at least have some sort of storyline or story arc, some sort of purpose with it.
Okay.
And then I tend to either like stuff like on the soft and raw side, or like the really heavy side.
Yeah, I know nowadays we kind of have gone a little bit polar opposite. Not polar, but we're not really into we used to be into the same stuff, and now we're not.
We kind of weave in and out.
Yeah, we do. I think we both appreciate each other's music. We just definitely don't really listen to each other's music very much anymore.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, like, that's a natural thing. Like, I think for me, when it comes to like new artists and new albums, for me to like it is really me getting to it. Which sounds, I don't know if it doesn't sound weird, but like I really don't like it when somebody's like, you need to listen to this, and I need you to stop what you're doing and listen to this. And maybe this sounds kind of crappy about me, but like, because I want someone to be genuinely like excited for their band, right? Like this is their favorite band. I want them to be super excited about it. But like for me, the way I go about music is I have kind of the same thing that I listen to all the time, and then it'll shuffle once, and then a new song will come out, and I'm like, oh, I like that. And then it'll be like, oh, that's that band, and then I'll listen to that song, get used to that song, and then it's like, oh, there's this, the album is really good, and then I'm listening to the album, and then I'm getting to the new album and stuff like that. And so like usually I'm always in the process of that. And so when people suggest it, it's kind of like I'm not ready for something new yet, and so it doesn't, I wouldn't say it annoys, I know how that goes. It doesn't annoy me so much as it's just like hey, like, yeah, I'm super happy that you're excited and you want to show me this stuff. I don't want to be like, no, don't suggest me this, but like let me come to it on my own terms.
I know how that goes. And it used to take me a long time to warm up to it.
It does.
These days, it's a little shorter. Like, it's gotten easier for me to turn off that critical part of my brain that is like...
I'm not super critical. I just I like just finding music on my own. And so what it is when people suggest music to me is like, I like having the choice of being able to listen to it on my own. Like being able to be like, hey, you know what? I am ready for this. I'm going to listen to it and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's a weird thing. I'm not picky. I will, if it's really good or if it really matches my style, I will love it. I just kind of like don't get to it. I'm the same way with shows and stuff where it's like, okay, I'll add it to the list.
Yeah, I'm way more picky about TV and shows than I am music.
But like, so when you actually like force me to listen to it, I'll be like, But that sometimes works. I know somebody did that with a band, Polyphia. They were like, you have to listen to it. I was like, okay. But then they listened to it, I was like, and at first I was like, yeah, no, like it doesn't do anything for me. Like it's great, like they're great musicians, whatever, but it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. It's helped me a lot. Like Jenna and I will just like kind of throw up music videos of like different artists.
Like some of my favorite nights is when me and her are all listening, because she listens to like everything.
Yeah, that's how I've really like found a lot of like some of the newer artists that I'm kind of into, you know, from one degree or another. Yeah, and that was just like I had to like turn off like any part of my brain that was like ready to be defensive about anything. It's like, okay, just let's let it go. Let's just see what this is about.
Liking
and
music,
it's helped a lot.
Like I said, I'm not picky. I'm open to all kinds of music, and even like country nowadays. It's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Like, I don't really like country.
Man,
I still
Tyler Childers.
Yeah. Your guys, I remember you guys showed me that, and it's like, okay, like
it's so good.
But just in all honesty, like, I'm not picky about music. I'm just picky about getting to it. Like, I'm picky about...
you gotta do it on your own terms.
Yeah, like, I like finding music on my own terms. And it's a weird thing, and it kind of holds me back maybe a little bit, but, like, I have to be in the mood to try new things. Yeah. With music, specifically, because I love music so much. Music means so much to me that, like, I do want to connect on a deep level to it. Like, and so to get that, I want to be in the mood. I want to be on that level. And so the only times when it's ever like, I'm going to suggest this, is when we have our like nights where we just hang out and play YouTube videos and just build this queue, and you just play him for fucking 3 you just anyway, that's for me.
I love those. We do those like anytime we have like guests over, for the most part, is like just music, because that's such a good way to bond with
I remember like when in my early party days when you kind of started doing that, like, because before I think Jenna even like, because when we lived together we would do that. But like I remember not in my early party, in my later party days, I was still like, yeah man, like what are we doing? Like this is like, we're just playing music videos. But now that I'm older and I don't really like I get drunk, or I get, I take an edible, and I'm like, now that I do that, I appreciate that stuff on a whole different level now, instead of then it's like, I gotta do something, what are we doing here now?
Oh, and it's like it's so much more convenient these days where it's like with like the Chromecast technology that we have.
Yeah.
It's like anyone can just pair up and just put anything on that they want. Sometimes it's like a little out there because like you'll have, this hasn't happened like in a long time, but it's like sometimes when you have like parties or something, someone will put up like the random 25-minute long video that's not doesn't match anything that's been going on, because everyone's just been like, yeah, this is good, and then it's like some long existential video, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I put this up, I didn't mean to do that.
I think the only time you ever do lose me is when we start going the rabbit hole of YouTube videos, like the like old 90s, like where it's all blurry and you can barely see the person. They don't lose me; they're still funny, but I'm like, yeah. But anyway, getting back on.
You said like music videos?
Maybe music videos, yeah.
Just whatever.
How our music rabbit holes go down. We once watched a thing of trash truck fails.
Oh yeah, those are good. That's not so music videos, but those are good. No. I do love that.
Anyway, yeah. So, for me, in favorite albums, favorite artists, I just really like have to be in the mood for it, and like I have to come across that mood, and then it's like, or I just kind of naturally come across to like my favorite band. Spoiler alert for later: Dance Gavin Dance.
Yeah,
they're just super unique. They're very good lyrics. They're catchy, and like they have this funk tone to them that like brings it back from when I was in jazz and I played bari sax, which is I listen to a lot of funk playing bari sax, like Tower of Power and stuff like that. So they just, I don't know, they connect and they hit a nostalgia note for me, and they're not the same every single album.
Right.
Every album has a theme, and that you can still tell that it's Dance Gavin Dance, but everything sounds a little bit different. And I really appreciate that, and I really enjoy that. So they've been my favorite band for about 3 to 4 years now. I've seen them live twice. Yep. Both times they've been super fun to watch. They kill it live every time, and that would be like my criteria is just kind of like unique. I have to come across it on my own, but also hit that nostalgia note a little bit, or just be again like creative, unique, and just
It's so hard to like.
God, I said creative. I said unique like so many times. So
it's so subjective. Like the questions like that, you're just like.
It's subjective, even like in the time of like what I want. Like sometimes it's just like, oh well, those lyrics are super catchy, and you're like, I just. And then like later on, beat. You're like, you're like after you burn yourself out of it, you're like, it was fun. Like I had a good time. Me and the song had a good time, but we moved on to different things. Yeah.
Okay. So next question. Let's go with like albums that have stood the test of time. So this could be something anywhere from like your early childhood or something that's like roughly like high school days that you still like identify with on like a big level and hasn't like aged so poorly that you have to explain the whole context of the album. Because I got plenty of albums like that where it's like, well, I gotta put this album and this band in this frame for you to understand.
No. So I've got a couple things. I'm gonna start with a song, and it's a song that you and I both love. 2 songs actually, because they're kind of in the same theme in a way. Kiss from a Rose, Hero. Both superhero theme songs. To Christopher Rose from being the Val Kilmer Batman, and Forever. Hero being from that second Spider-Man movie. Yeah. With Doc Ock, with Tobey Maguire, not like any of those. Yeah, I think they...
Not albums, but songs, but still like...
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I have not 2 albums, I have 2 songs. That stood the test of time for me. Yeah. And again, they have the nostalgia notes that I crave. Yeah. They're both attached to movies that I don't actually like the Tobey Maguire movies at all, Spider-Man movies, but the Kiss from a Rose, I do love that Batman movie.
Batman Forever's.
This is perfection.
It's the one I want to watch the most out of all of the like 90s Batman movies.
The Michael Keaton ones are like so like artsy, it's cool, but like that one's It's just so like fun. And anyway, Kiss from a Rose.
It hits all the good. Like,
and
the
then
best
randomly,
notes.
right at the end, Kiss from a Rose comes on, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, I still don't get what they were thinking about having that be that. Like that was the song for the movie.
It must have been like Seal was the thing back, like because we didn't. I don't think we grew up in the Seal is the greatest thing on earth phase.
I mean, not as much. So I mean, I think Batman Forever came out in '95 or '96. So I was 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember when that movie came out because like I was big into Batman and I got all the toys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like because I was
still have all the
I
toys.
remember buying all of that stuff before Batman and Robin because I remember being stoked about Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger and you know all that. So I remember that, but I don't remember Seal being as much of a thing. But then again, I wasn't as into music.
Same.
The only thing I could agree upon back then that I love now is be like that Matchbox 20, Yourself or Someone Like You. That's been the longest running album of my life because it's the farthest thing I can remember back to that I'm like, that album slaps.
Yeah.
Like, every song, perfect. Yeah.
I gotta look up this album real quick, but it Senses Fail for me. Standing the test of time. Everybody's emo phase. Everybody's like, oh, I go emo phase. Let It Enfold You. The whole album, love it. It is my emo song, like my emo album. Not, I mean, I was into My Chemical Romance and stuff like that, but like Let It Enfold You, Senses Fail, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. Love that album, and like I'll sing it. I can sing the whole entire album front to back. There's not any song that I don't know. Then there's even like a cover where it's a quartet, a string quartet, 4-string quartet, where they play the album front to back, and that's wonderful. Even some of their songs they do is actually better than the original songs from that album, but that album's still golden. I love it. I will always think every time emo is like my emo phase, like I think is Senses Fail. Yeah. More than My Chemical Romance, more than all the other emo bands and stuff like that. It's Senses Fail for me, and so it stands the test of time because of that. Like, and then my last one would be a top album for me, actually, but Unplugged by Alice in Chains. A lot of people from like the '90s have the Unplugged album. Yeah, it's just a live like acoustic. Right. They're all wonderful. But Unplugged by the Alice in Chains Unplugged is just... God.
I need to listen to that one.
It's beautiful. I have it on vinyl. We should, because I actually tune my whole system to sound good with that album. So I play it, and I make sure everything on my system sounds really good with that album. Yeah. God, it's wonderful. Alice in Chains is just like it's a '90s thing for me because we grew up in the '90s. And I'm not much of a 90s kid because I was like 7 by the end of the 90s. Yeah. Like I legitimately grew up in the 90s.
It's like we're 90s kids, but we're not. It's like
we were there.
Much of our core memories formed in the 2000s.
Yeah. But anyway, like still because of the way my parents were, like they were in their 20s, late 30s. My dad being 12 years older than my mom. In the 90s, and like as a kid, so they went through the 90s, so I remember a lot of my memories are from them experiencing all that stuff. Like they're staying up late blasting on their big speaker system that like now I have a speaker system just like it, and they're playing like Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, like right, and like so it's just a huge. Lane Staley is an amazing, he's like the most unique singer from that group. Right. I know that's going to be like a little bit of a like mic drop, maybe like, bullshit. But he was so unique. Like he's not a normal grunge singer. And yeah, so Unplugged stands test of time. Yeah. Is one of my favorite albums. Alice in Chains.
Sick. Okay, so albums that have stood the test of time for me. So this whole time I've been trying to think of something from like the 2000s to kind of fit in that category. So I'm still kind of mulling over that. But my top two I would just have to kind of tie them, and these are going to be albums that everyone's going to be like, well, yeah, of course.
But that's okay, right? Like, it's okay to like things that are popular.
Yes, and for both of these albums, especially the second one, have been, like, they just get better with time. Yeah. So the first one's Weezer's Blue Album.
Yeah.
There are some cringy moments on it, because it's definitely written from that 90s white guy being like, I'm so sad all the time. So there's a lot of really good stuff in there, but there are some moments that are like, you're being a little too possessive.
I know you've never watched Friends, but a lot of things from the 90s and early 2000s are very Ross. And if you ever watch Friends and know Ross,
I could see Rivers Cuomo being a Ross.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some aspects of that, but the Blue Album, as much as I love Pinkerton, and I personally enjoy listening to Pinkerton more, objectively I feel like Blue Album's the best. It's produced super well, and it's a good balance of that kind of raw, where it's you can tell his emotions are in it, but it's still very universally appealing. And every song is so goddamn good. And it's a really good pop album, and then the last song is this 9-minute long kind of progressive weird, takes you on a weird journey where there's not it's dissonant jamming at the end, and you're like, what that's how that album ends. And then the other one's Metallica's Black Album,
that's it.
Which I did not like for such a long time, which part of it was because, it's the 90s.
I still don't really care for it. But that's... I mean, that's just...
Right. It takes a little bit, and it's been so overdone and overplayed and oversaturated.
Yeah. I mean, though, it is their first, super popular album.
Yeah. And it's I get that. For me, it's been the context of, all good metal since then has been kind of based or measured up against that album.
Yeah.
So I feel like it loses a lot of the context of just how important that album was. Because Metallica was relatively still kind of underground before that album.
Yeah, because they were thrash. We always think, because as metalheads, right? It's so weird to think of popular metal bands being underground. But metal is still an underground genre. It's kind of coming with A Day to Remember and Metallica, and kind of Devil Wears Prada and August Burns Red in a weird way. It is still underground, but those being kind of they're not, those bands aren't mainstream, but they've popped up here and there.
And the
Metallica being the one that has popped up and has stayed above into the mainstream.
And it's just it was such a weird point for Metallica to rise up above, because it's they had gotten some pretty good underground success up through Master of Puppets, and then Cliff Burton died, and then they had
a new thrash.
And then they had And Justice for All, which was a great album, but it's all the songs in there are 7 to 9 minutes long, super progressive, not
I will
really
say they're super progressive, but they do all kind of sound the same.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just not the band that if it was 1988 and you put them in front of me, and I had to be what's going to be the next biggest rock and metal band ever?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have said that. I'd be that's going to be a great prog metal band that's going to have a really small but devout core group of fans. So the fact that it just became so big, I think everyone kind of takes for granted. Well, and I definitely had been in that camp, and just recently, over the last few years, I've been listening to it. It's one of the best produced albums.
Yeah.
The sound on everything is just tight.
Well, and if you think about it, too, again, metal is not mainstream. Unless... Yeah. And so... And that is kind of your thing. That is, metal is kind of anti-mainstream. And this metal album, specifically, became mainstream and made Metallica mainstream.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it, it is kind of it's not anti-metal, because metal should be very inclusive to all things. I would want metal to be more mainstream. I want more people to listen to it. So I'm not personally going to say that it is anti-metal, but to probably a lot of metalheads, it is.
Yeah.
If you think about the mindset behind metal and being kind of not mainstream and being its niche.
Yeah.
And
see, I used to be in that camp where I was like,
yeah,
no, metal's my thing. It is my baby, and everything I want it to fit in my front pocket right here. I don't want any popular girl at school to know about my favorite metal band unless I told them about it.
Yeah.
Like, I was that wrapped up in it. That was my identity.
Yeah.
And once I kind of broke that stuff off and kind of freed myself from that mentality, I was like, no, like, the cool thing about it was, like, the Black Album's metal as fuck.
Uh-huh.
Just not in the same way that, like, And Justice for All is.
Yeah.
But, like, in a metal that you're just like, God damn it, that's a good riff.
Yeah.
And the fact that that was the #1 album in 1991, like, for such a long time, and put it to where Metallica probably didn't have to make another album after that, and they would have been fine.
Yeah.
Is so crazy to me. And it's really cool because, like, these days, yeah, there's not really, like, any metal albums on the top of the charts, but everyone's aware of it. Like, back then, you think about all the people that probably weren't aware that there was that aggressive of music happening.
Yeah.
Like, people living in rural Kansas probably didn't know about a lot of, like...
Oh, I remember...
Really, like, heavy shit. Like, unless you were into that heavy shit. Yeah. Whereas, like, when 1991 happened, everyone was like... Man, did you know that, like, riffs can have, like, 16th notes in them?
Well, and, like, so, like,
you know,
because, yeah, usually metal is really, being a kind of a music major. I was in it for a year. I learned a little bit, and I was a metalhead in that, and so, like, I learned a lot about it. Well, I would say I learned a lot. I could have learned tons more, right, if I stayed with it. But it didn't work out, or it became a hobby. Metal is very percussive. It's tuned so low, it is percussive. And so the Black Album isn't percussive. It's musical.
Yeah.
But it still has some of those connotations. It's still related to Metallica. It still does have their, like, heavy, you know, metal. And that's such a cool thing, like, especially now with music now, or especially now with metal nowadays being very musical and melodic. You know, you get your Dance Gavin dances, and you get your... you know, contortionist, and you're between the bear to me, where they balance this heavy versus melodic stuff. Black Album, as much as I don't like it, I don't hate it. It has some really good songs on it. I appreciate for what it is. Man, it kind of was the first one like that. Almost,
yeah.
Or at least it's not necessarily the first.
It showed
one.
the world that, like, those two worlds could coexist.
Exactly, kind of like in a weird way too, because. Nobody ever thinks about this, but Anthrax did that song with I don't think maybe it was
Run DMC. I think
Run DMC or no, that was Aerosmith.
Oh yeah, no,
Public Enemy.
Yeah,
Public Enemy.
Yeah,
that was kind of the first time, and that's where you get Korn and Slipknot and all these other things where people are like, oh well, we can experiment. Like, yeah. Like,
I really feel like the Black Album was one of those first few albums that showed people, like, hey, you can do really out there stuff, and you can be, like, the next big thing.
Yeah, and it's so weird because we grew up after the Black Album, so it's not out there.
Yeah, it seems like common sense. It's like, well, yeah, duh.
Yeah, but
who doesn't love Enter Sandman? Like, that's just a cool riff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, imagine, like, so I was, you know, all these records over here. We spent
10 albums on Black Album. Like,
yeah.
10
but like
albums,
all these records over here of my uncles, there's a lot of really cool, awesome stuff from, like, the 70s and 80s. But, like, I just would love to have, like, just been a fly on the wall at the time where, like, God damn it. 2 episodes now of just me going, have been a fly on the wall at the time where it's like people went from listening to, like glam metal, mainstream-wise, and then all of a sudden you turn on the radio and it's just, you know, Enter Sandman, and you're like, holy shit. Like, because it was kind of the first time, like, they took metal songs and metal riffs and made it digestible for people.
Yeah.
And that's my bread and butter, is I love stuff that can go as hard as it can for the time period that people are living.
Yeah.
And then push it just enough.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what I'm into these days, like, is stuff that's, like, really heavy, and you're like, God damn, how are they doing that?
Yeah.
But everyone is in agreement. They're like, yeah, that's a good riff.
I do
That's
have
a
an
good song.
appreciation for, like, heavy riffs. Heavy riffs are so much cooler than just open note breakdowns to me nowadays.
And they're so much harder to write.
Yeah.
Like, because that's been the hardest thing about writing stuff, is it's like, well, yeah, I can write like 16th note, like, but coming up with something that people can go like,
yeah, heavy riffs are so, God, they're hard to come by, but man, when you get them, you're like, oh, they're the ones that make you go like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, wow, wow.
A lot of people have been making the comparison of Gojira's new album. Kind of on par with like Metallica's Black Album, but like in a new context. People are like saying they're the new Metallica.
Yeah.
I don't like that comparison, but I get it because like their newer stuff is somewhat simplified, but like still heavy and still catchy.
Yeah.
But not untrue to the music that they wrote
I mean,
before.
like, if you think about it though, like, in a way, every decade there's an album that kind of rewrite, and I'm not saying Gojira's this, their new album is this, but there's an album that rewrites what the path is that we're on, right? So rock and roll came from jazz, blues, and stuff like that. White Album from the Beatles kind of rewrote that, right? That's the start. Not the start. That was the first time where it was this very mainstream band
to do some kind of weird shit.
And I know not a lot of people my age love the Beatles, especially metalheads. They all hate the Beatles. I mean, every time. We wouldn't be where we are. We might be where we are without the Beatles, but the White Album specifically.
As much as I like to talk trash on the Beatles, like, no.
And I get it. Like, it's the same thing as the Black Album. It was before us. So all we ever know is that it was it's mainstream.
Yeah.
All we've ever known
Beatles
is
from
popular.
Those car commercials or whatever.
Yeah,
they
all you've
their music
ever
to.
known the Beatles as is popular mainstream. But in the 60s, the White Album was fucking brand new shit that you didn't know. You never listened to. It was weird. It was good. It was like original, raw. Kind of like the Black Album in a way. I mean, a lot of the Metallica stuff was original and raw because thrash was kind of a new thing in the 80s. But like the Black Album was like, oh, this band is...
They took those same riffs but just slowed them down.
Yeah.
And added like a chorus.
I am very happy we talked about Black Album for 15 minutes. I never thought I would be. No, I'm happy with all the. I think we've said some really good things. So anyway,
I forgot what prompt we were even on anymore. But I think we're ready for your next prompt. We're only like 2 prompts in.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so how has music really affected your life? So I'll get the juices stirring here again, like the last time. With this one, music's really important to me. Music is what I use in a lot of coping mechanisms that I have now, especially you heard in the first episode about all the problems I've had with depression, and I mean even the first season talking about my separation. Before that, when I was in high school, learning out about how is depression. So music has just been intertwined with my mental health, and beyond that. So I use just about everything I have is involved in music. So, like, for me, how has it affected my life? It's kept... I could probably say it's kept me alive. Maybe that's a little extreme, but at the same time, not. Like, I think sometimes when you live through something... I say live through something. You kind of like, well, I mean, I lived through it, so is it that big of a deal? But no, like, it's kind of a big deal. Like, some of my coping mechanisms, like meditation, I listen to music. I don't listen to music with lyrics. I listen to like meditation music and stuff like that. And kind of really just focus on the music, focus on what's the question of the day, what's the thing bothering me for the day. And
I'm sure we've talked about it before. Have you ever listened to Sigur Rós?
Yes, we have talked about it. I have not yet. Yeah. I think maybe
I know you hate suggestions.
No. I think
they're good for meditation because all their stuff's in Icelandic, so you get the ambiance and timbre vocals, but you don't have anything to process.
What I do when I listen to meditation music is like I just listen to like big orchestral pieces.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff that like is my favorite, like Mussorgsky, Tchaikovsky, but I also just listen to like ambiance. It's specifically designed for meditation. So I'll do that. But a lot of the times for me and how it affected my life, like right now, to get one of my coping skills is to dance. I dance. I put music on my headphones, or I'll play it and I'll clean, because it gives me something to do, and I can.
Right.
And then the music kind of helps me think about things. It kind of like, in a way, and then it gives me this like vibe, right?
Yeah.
This very positive vibe, and it can also give me a very negative vibe too. Like, it can go both ways. So what I try to do is do a positive vibe when I'm sad and stuff. Now I used to just like really dig in, like, oh, I'm sad, we're gonna just listen to this.
Let's see how deep we can cut this wound open.
Yeah,
let's see what trauma wasn't there before but is there now.
In the past month, so since the episode 1 came out, has come out now, which was probably a month and a half.
It was probably just a week ago, because this. No, a month ago.
Yeah, from when this episode's coming out right now, right? So you gotta think about that. Like it's a month for 2 episodes. This is the 3rd episode. We recorded it a month after I went through this mental breakdown and stuff. It's
something
weird.
like that.
Fourth wall.
The timeline's weird right now.
Yeah, well, it's weird because I know what's going on, but you don't. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to listen to positive music, and so especially when I'm like not feeling the best, and I've been feeling really good.
Happy to hear that.
Thank you. Yes, I've actually been feeling fantastic, and music's been playing a big part in that. And like some of the songs that stand out to me, Reptilla by The Strokes, which is like a weird Guitar Hero song that like I was like, oh man, The Strokes. Like I knew about The Strokes before Guitar Hero, but like I never really listened to it, because somebody the other day I was playing Queens of the Stone Age, and so I was like, that's from Guitar Hero, you jerk off. Yeah, like but I'm like, man, like I knew Queens of the Stone Age before, but that's not the point. Like it's a good song. It doesn't matter how you listen to it. Doesn't matter how you come across it, if it's Guitar Hero or whatever. Like, I happened to come across that song before.
Guitar Hero 2 definitely has some really good songs. I know that has introduced a lot of people to, like, metal music, like we were talking to.
Yeah, rock and roll and stuff. And so, like, Queens...
That's how I heard Lamb of God's Laid It to Rest for the first time. I was like,
yeah.
Whoa!
That's kind of, I think, how I came across Senses Fail, was it's on 2 as one of the bonus songs.
Oh, and,
Socialization.
Unholy Confessions from Avenged Sevenfold, because it was the demo version that was on there.
Yeah.
The same one that was on the I think the Headbangers Ball or something like that.
Yeah. So shout out to Guitar Hero for doing that, but like it's not a bad thing to like something from like something that's very popular, because the whole point, really at the end of the day, it's not about you and me. It's about everybody enjoying something. And these people make this
I love
music.
stuff that gets more people into it, because I feel like kind of metal music is cool because it has that kind of like outsider culture wrapped into it, which
not
is
that
great.
Queens of the Stone Age is metal, but
it's just like there's that kind of like, hey, you feel a little different, you feel left out, you feel outside the fold. Which I think appeals to a lot more people than, like, I think people like to
everybody
admit.
At some point in their life has felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
And so I think at some point in everybody's life, metal or heavy rock or something, anything other than Five Finger Death Punch.
Well, and even that,
it's like...
I get, like, at a certain point, some people kind of grow out of that, like, angsty, like... God, I'm so frustrated and I don't know how to show it. Mentality. But I think that's such a prevalent, just emotion in human beings, because when you think about it, we're just animals that somehow grew the advantage of being able to be aware.
Well,
so we're aware of how weird and frustrating everything is, and I don't think a lot of us know how to articulate that. So I think there's that kind of like that kind of feeds into like like rock and metal music where you just kind of have that angst, or it's like sometimes you just don't know why you're mad or you're frustrated. You're like, taxes, and you're like, bam, banano, bam, banano, bam, bam, banano. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know how to say that with words, but like a you get that, distorted like, nice, guitar.
Again, if you're talking about a heavy riff, that one Queens of the Stone Age song where that happens, you're like, God damn! Like, I feel it in my bones.
Yeah, you're like, I'm one with the universe.
You're just like, that riff makes me feel happy that I'm angry.
Yeah. The ions in your body that have existed since the beginning of the universe, they're like, what the fuck is taxes right now? Yeah. Because the taxes on your mind are stressing out the ions in your and your whole being is like, fuck taxes. Also, I gotta waz and figure out where we are in this
so let's clap real quick.
Clap.
Okay. We're doing good. We're on track.
I'm having a great time. I just don't remember what the prompt is.
The prompt is how's music affected your life? Oh. Yeah. Go Waz.
Regroup.
Oh. Luckily, I'm just going across the street. We legit went 15 minutes on Black Album, and I can't be happier about it.
Are you really just 50 minutes into this, and we're 2 prompts in?
Yeah, we
God damn it. Thing in front of me.
Fair enough.
Because sometimes, like, in recording, it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. And then I'm watching, I'm like, it's fine. And other times it's like, we're, doing the episode, I'm like, I don't know about this. But then I'm like, oh, we did a lot of really funny quips. So, like, the content isn't great, but the comedy's younger. It definitely got more clear over time. Yeah.
It's itchy. I'm breathing real heavy. Oh, I poured you a shot.
I came out here and I was like, there's more alcohol on the table than I remember, but I'm at the point where I don't remember if I poured it or not. I'm just glad it wasn't me this time.
Yeah. Oh. You wazzed yourself? Or are you just happy to see me?
Hey, Ma, if I sell these chairs, remember to say, hey, the 2 being spilled alcohol in these chairs.
Hey, I wazzed on them.
Well, now for me to regroup after being 15 seconds into my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you're in the car and you're like, this breakdown is
you're like,
awesome. And that's just that's how I do breakdowns these days. I'm just like on my steering like,
okay, we're gonna be fun and we're gonna be happy. And like, nowadays that's where I'm at with that. And so I think that's why probably misdirect the cat Samson. Anyway,
he just zonked.
Yeah, that's why the great misdirect kind of. I guess I didn't get that, but I'm not going to derail us for any longer.
We're already pretty derailed. Yeah, I don't know where we are.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. This is going to be a long, probably, episode even after we cut it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the season 2. It's been a lot of fun. We've talked about a lot of things.
We're leaning real hard into the chaos here.
We have devolved but into topic, but probably
bye.
Bye.